So a little disclaimer before we get into the video today. I do want to go ahead and specify, because people don't read my review disclaimers in the beginning of my videos. I am a person who does a user review, not a technical review. User review means you purchase the product, or a company sends out the product and you use the product as if you purchased the product with your own money, and you go ahead and use it in a real world average user experience, and then you divulge that information from your experience to the viewer. I do not have machines or testing facilities or any kind of apparatuses to test and validate what the companies are saying and stuff like that. I leave that to more competent content creators out there who can test certain things to fact check the manufacturer, and maybe deep dive a little bit more into like the mathematics behind a product if that's necessary, or to validate some claims or whatever from other people or the manufacturer themselves. Again, I do not have the crew. I do not have the capacity to be able to do all that stuff. I do not have the equipment to do all that stuff with all the products that I review. So just keep that in mind. I am doing it as if I purchased this with my own money, and I went and used the product in my workflow, and in anything that I experienced during that time, I go ahead and put it into a video. So those who are probably going to be around the similar, I would say, experience as me going to purchase a product with their own money, maybe they can see if it's worth their money or not. That's the avenue that I approach this. With all that being said, Comica did send out this product for a review, but no money has switched hands. This is not a sponsored video. I just be able to keep the product and give my thoughts and opinions on the product. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm a content creator. This is the experience. Everyone's chasing clean wireless audio, but most budget lav mics either sound rough or drop connection the second you move. The Comica BooMax might be the one that finally gets it right. It's compact, dual channel, long battery life, and it just works. Let's find out if it's the best wireless mic under $200 in 2025. This is the Comica BooMax wireless lavalier microphone system, built for content creators, vloggers, and anyone who wants professional audio without paying for Rode or, in my case, DJI prices. The case design feels solid and compact, and is perfect for travel or desk setups, or those who need 2 transmitters and 1 receiver, and everything fits neatly inside of the magnetic charging case. The battery life is up to around 14 hours total, and you can check the levels easily with the LED indicators on the actual transmitters, and on the receiver you can see the information, typically what you would see on these type of devices, to be able to check and monitor things if you're behind the camera or you're setting up your shot before you start recording and getting that audio. Each transmitter has a built-in mic with a 3.5 millimeter input if you desire or prefer a wired lavalier system. Looking at you, DJI, and your newest microphone systems not having that, and I've seen a lot of people complain about that. So it's going to be up to you if that's something you desire or not. You do got real-time monitoring with 1-tap noise reduction, but we'll get into some of the cons of that in a second. Mute buttons, as well as support for mono or stereo, and a safety track mode, which is super helpful for interviews, dual mic setups, or anything that is in that workspace if you do need those things. Now, if you can connect it to your camera, your phone, your PC using USB, Lightning, or 3.5 millimeter, there's no adapters, so no stress. So you do have everything that you need pretty much to get this up and running in multiple various situations depending on your needs. So before we get into testing today, I do want to go ahead and specify a couple of things that I noticed or drawbacks or whatever with this system. I did notice on the actual transmitters themselves, if you click the denoise button, it takes a while to receive that on the actual receiver, no puns intended. So you are going to have to wait a little bit for that to sync up, because it might be turned on the actual transmitter, but the receiver hasn't had that information displayed on it yet. It takes a couple seconds. It's less than probably around like 5 or 3 seconds for that to pop up. Navigating the menus is similar as far as like swiping to the left or swiping down. I did notice in some of the menus you have to swipe up or wherever just to get out of the menu, and it might be counterintuitive to how you got into the menu as far as swiping goes. So that was a little bit in, but again, that stuff is probably privy into this actual manual. But I have the DJI mics as well as other lavalier systems from Comica and some other companies. So I was able to figure that out relatively quickly. But for those who don't have that many systems, because I have like 8 systems or whatever when it comes to wireless systems, period, for microphones, some people, this might be their first purchase or whatever. So I definitely would just brush up on a quick start guide or whatever in the manual to see, what everything does. I did notice that the actual case, I would say the Comica BooMax, it does feel a little bit less, I would say, thick and padded on the outsides as far as the outside of the case. So it is a little bit more squishy. Then alternatively, this is the Osmo Pocket 3 case, but it's very similar to the DJI one. But it feels roughly around, I would say, the softness or whatever on the sides of these cases. But you do notice a little bit lack of, I don't want to say like premium feel, but you do feel like, hey, this is a little bit of a cheaper case, but it's gonna do what it needs to do. It has a little lanyard part or whatever to carry it around if you need to. It's small and compact. I do like these little shell casings or whatever like that. I just wish, like I said, it was a little bit more padding on the outsides or whatever, but mostly your main system is gonna be in the middle of this actual case. So it's not gonna be too much of a problem because that is surrounded by some rigid, I would say, installation and stuff like that. And on top of that, you do have these hard, I would say, sidings on each side. So you're not going to damage your microphones or the important components or whatever going inside of this case, because again, they're surrounded by that. And there's a magnetic latch in here, wherever, to keep, the main, I would say, system in place while it's inside the case. So that's pretty nice. But again, the outside walls of the case, I would have liked to see a little bit more padding there. That's just me. There is some there. You can feel it, but I would have loved it to be a little bit more. And speaking of denoiser, you do have a high and a low. But in my use case scenario, even with the DJI stuff and just all the microphones that I have tested, whether they're wireless systems or anything like that, I would not use a denoiser built in on any wireless systems. Me personally, I don't think we're there yet. Some people say use it in a pinch. I would just do that in post, or try to mitigate all that stuff while I'm recording, making sure I'm choosing the right places and times to be able to record. I know situations happen. It is what it is. I guess you could say it's usable in a pinch, but in my personal opinion, no wireless system is there yet. Even the more expensive, I would say, systems out there, I would always use something like what Elgato released recently that I'm using right now in this room, and it's not even sound treated, is Voice Focus. That's a $50 USD $50 VST plugin that you can get to work inside of DaVinci Resolve, all that stuff. And it just pretty much hyper focuses on your voice. So you don't have to have a microphone so close and stuff like that. It works well with this. It works well with, traditional microphones. And now they release a VST thing that you can use in any program that you want to. So that will come in handy if you are experiencing a place where you want to use a denoiser on a wireless system. I would recommend that, especially if you're one of those people that holds their systems like this, or you have a lav system, or you have it on you and you want to get rid of some of that background noise. They do have other VSTs and stuff that you can use as well. But in my personal opinion, that's what I would do over the denoiser. So that's just kind of my thoughts and opinions on that. Now, as far as in comparison to the DJI mics and why I went with the DJI mics instead of the Rode or anything else, and I got this a long time ago at this point, the reason why I went with this is because they have the Sony hot shoe to automatically level your, I would say, audio and stuff like that. And as far as I know, DJI is the only one that's doing that with their wireless lavalier systems. I'm not sure if Hollyland has something like that, or any other company out there does it as well, but I use Sony ecosystem as far as the cameras and stuff go. The intelligent hot shoe, having that for the audio levels, having that for the Osmo Pocket 3 as well, it just comes handy, and I don't have to worry about stuff, especially since they have internal recording and 32-bit float, just like this one has 32-bit float internal recording. I just don't see why I would pick any other wireless lavalier system, because I'm in the Sony ecosystem, like I said, and those audio levels are going to be automatically adjusted for me. That's less work I have to do in post. That's why I went with that ecosystem. And on top of that, the Comica one does not have that. So if you are in the Sony ecosystem, or you're thinking about getting the Sony ecosystem, yes, I understand that these are far, I would say, expensive or cheaper than the DJI microphones, and you're just looking to start up your content creation or something like that. That's just something to keep in mind, that DJI does offer that, But again, you're going to be paying DJI prices and everything that's going on with DJI right now and the US and stuff like that. It might not be the way to go for you. So it just depends on your scenario, but that's something I did want to bring up because I know there are some people out there who have Sony cameras. With all that being said, let's get into the audio testing. So this video is already longer than anticipated, so I'm going to try to make this very brief. DaVinci Resolve will not let me edit 10-bit footage and export the timeline or wherever just for audio, because you have to pay for DaVinci Resolve in order to get access to edit 10-bit footage, which was fine for me in the past because I still was able to grab the audio. For whatever reason, it won't let me grab just the audio, and it won't export the file, even though it says the file was exported. It used to let me do that with the Osmo Pocket 3 10-bit footage, I guess because it's not 422, I don't know. But for whatever reason, I was able to color grade and EQ microphones and all that stuff with the Osmo Pocket 3. I cannot even use my old footage to do that, to render that stuff out anymore. So I don't know what's going on with it. Maybe it's because I had PC issues or wherever recently, but I'm not, uninstalling and reinstalling the DaVinci Resolve and stuff like that off my SD cards and swapping them around and doing all this stuff or whatever, because I just did all that stuff with the PC issues I had. So I'm not doing all that because I have a lot of save files on that stuff that I really need. So long story short, if you need to EQ this microphone or any wireless lavalier system, I'm gonna put on screen the VSTs and plugins that I recommend. All of them are free that I'm going to recommend. The most needed one that you need to get, and I highly recommend it and tell you that it's a necessity for this stuff, is going to be $50, and it's going to be Elgato's Voice Focus. They just released it. It's fantastic. I use it for my overhead shotgun microphone for all my videos through the Wave XLR, but now they released the VST file that you can use in any editing program at all. And what that does is it hones in onto your voice and eliminates pretty much everything else in tandem with all the other VSTs and plugins that I mentioned on screen that you will need to facilitate you making content and doing this. Paying $50 and paying for this or wherever system or wherever, and then learning how to EQ, that is probably the easiest way to get into content creation, especially with the 32-bit float, as well as, Comica having really good audio. That's what I would recommend. I am sorry if there's no EQ portion. I'm gonna try to EQ this portion and put it into the audio testing, as well as I would say the office testing with no EQ, as well as different segments from me turning on my AC unit and turning off. But since I rambled so long for this part, I'm trying to try to cut that down. So if it does sound disjointed and doesn't make any sense, it's because I had to, facilitate doing this. So hopefully you guys can hear the audio in different stages or wherever. And again, don't really pay attention to too much of what's happening. Just pay attention to how the microphone sounds in an unsound treated room, as well as the AC unit and the denoiser and all that stuff or wherever that's built into the microphone. And also to the sound of my voice with it in this position with the EQ applied. With all that being said, enjoy the rest of the video. All right, so let's test this indoors the way most people will actually use this kind of system, because outside it is raining, and like I said, of the stipulations in the beginning of the video, so I'm not gonna be able to go outside, I'll be staying inside. So right now I do have two PCs running in this small bedroom. I do have the ambience of what's going on or wherever in my house and in this room. So you'll probably be able to hear the audio of this. I am going to turn on a AC unit that's probably like an arm's length and a half away from me right now where I'm standing. So you're going to be able to hear that. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on low and medium, or low and high, because that's the only really systems it has. But it does introduce a lot of ambience noise and room noise and stuff inside of this room. So this is how it sounds, I guess, again, with the PCs going, the ambient room temperature, wherever it's getting a little hot. So I turn on the AC just to cool it down a little bit. And this is the way it sounds on high. Again, this is not really usable audio, I would say, in any circumstance. Even if I was streaming or anything like that, I probably ever wouldn't use this high setting unless I left my computers on for a bit and I was going to be gone and then I was going to come back in. I probably would turn the AC on just to, okay, now it's switching over to low. I can audibly hear it. This is probably where I keep the AC unit on, I would say 90% of the time, as far as when I'm in the room or wherever, just on low. And it doesn't matter the temperature or wherever. It can also do heat, but it doesn't matter the temperature. It kind of just stays constant as far as the noise levels and the sound of it and everything. So this is kind of just more applicable of, I guess, somebody in an apartment. All right, so this is with the denoiser on and the AC unit is still on low. And like I said, clicking the button on the side, the green will show up on the actual transmitter, but it does take a while, like I said, to kick in to the receiver or wherever to show that. I don't know if as soon as you turn it on, will it affect the 32-bit float recording, and then it will affect the regular audio that you record. I have no idea. So, but yeah, this is the way it sounds. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it real quick to medium, the AC unit, to see if this helps wherever with the noise, I would say, as far as the denoiser from the thing. It's starting to pick up into medium. I can hear it right there. So this is the way it sounds. And I'm gonna go ahead and switch it over to high and test that and see if that makes a difference. This is pretty much what it sounds like and everything. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. But like I said, I would rather EQ this out. After using this for a few days, what is my comprehensive thought of the Comica BooMax? So it does compete with, in my personal opinion, with the Rode and DJI. It does have the slot for the wireless lavalier system that a lot of these companies are getting away with, as far as not having them in their newer products. So having that is really good for those who care about it. Having the 32-bit float internal recording is really good for those who care about it, as well as new content creators who want to have really good audio and they can learn about 32-bit float and not break the bank being under $200 and being able to edit that really good audio from the 32-bit float. So that's going to be really good. The downsides is that if you are in a Sony ecosystem and you are looking for a premium set that tried and true, everybody kind of uses thing, the DJI mic system, even though it's way more expensive, and it shouldn't be as expensive as it is, and that's coming from somebody who owns it and has used it, it still shouldn't be as expensive, but I get it if you do decide to forego this and go with that, as well as being in the Sony ecosystem if you do want that hot shoe adapter, because it's really, really handy. So it's just going to depend on your thoughts and your, I would say, needs and wants as a content creator, if you can really plan out what you need and sitting down and doing that. But if you don't care about auto leveling and you're already going to use a 32-bit float internal recording, or maybe using a different camera ecosystem or multiple different cameras or wherever, so you don't really want that hot shoe adapter, then I don't understand why you wouldn't go for this, especially if you're one of those that don't like holding your microphone in the shot or having it clipped to you wherever, and you wouldn't mind having a discrete wireless lavalier system with a lav microphone or wherever. This is going to be really good because you get that 32-bit float internal recording, you get that lav mic input, and it has a nice little carrying case that you can travel around with, easily put in a camera bag. It has the battery life and the compartment or wherever, being able to fit everything on it, and just overall build quality, all this stuff or wherever. Like I said, you are seeing some budget stuff here as far as like the case on the sides, like I said, not having that extra cushion that I would prefer. And the only thing else I can think of is, does it come with the actual lav microphone? So that's going to be a separate purchase, and it doesn't have the capabilities and premium say features as some of these other ones, where you can hook up 4 microphones to one receiver from 4 different transmitters, and you're also getting the fact of just kind of that brand recognition. But Comica is kind of slept on, in my personal opinion, so there's that. So you are, you know what I'm saying, there's a give and take. There's a reason why these are, not as costly as some of the more expensive ones, but not everything that you need for your content creation is always going to be the most lavish or most expensive. So that's just my thoughts and opinions on that. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the video up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Comica, for sending this out. I'm glad to add this to, in addition to, my lineup of use case scenarios for wireless systems. And with all that being said, let me know your thoughts and opinions of this system down in the comments down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. If you're new to the channel and you want to subscribe or support me, you can click that affiliate link down below if you want this product. If not, then you can hit that like button, comment, or even consider becoming a channel member. And I'll leave you guys with the playlist of all the Comica stuff I have covered at the end of the video. Y'all take care. Have a squid-tastic day. God bless you and yours. And deuces, everybody. Much love.